Hey, what up everyone? Glad you could make it back to my channel. Now the featured video that you are about to see comes from a self-proclaimed good cop who is exhibiting what I am calling the false narrative effect. He is also suffering from what I am calling the false narrative syndrome. Now after watching the featured video, I would love for you to go to my description and watch my video titled What It Means to Back the Blue. Now, as you're watching What It Means to Back the Blue, I want you to keep in mind some key bullet points that good old Sheriff Tard here is presenting to you in this featured video. And those key bullet points are perfection, standard of excellence, obey, not being afraid, lack of respect for cops, and running from the truth. Now, there's a whole plethora of shit that I want to talk about when it comes to the crap that good old Sheriff Tard here is spewing out his mouth. But the two main things that I want to talk about before you watch this video are 2 bullet points out of the 6. All right, the first one is not being afraid. All right, listen to how he says that in the featured video. If this is true, why is it that every single time a cop has to justify his actions to his department, his superiors, and in a court of law, they are always hiding behind, I was fearing for my life. So much so that they're willing to pull their service weapons out and other deadly weapons on innocent children. Okay? That's all I'm going to say about that one. As far as perfection, just a quick little touch on that one. You cannot be perfect, but when you're dealing with a profession that deals with people in which you are making decisions that will ultimately affect those people's lives for the rest of their lives, there's no room for mistakes. All right, so moving on to my last second bullet point. I know I touched 3, but I just threw in the perfection one. But the second, or let's call it the third bullet point, which is the main one, is revolving around the entire message that this self-proclaimed good cop, Sheriff Tard, is bringing to you in this entire video. Never mind anything else he says. It's all fill-ins. Okay, it's all fill-ins. The main message that he's bringing to you in this video is obey, which translates into comply or die. And after you hear how he talks about it, you're going to see exactly what I mean. But take this into consideration. What kind of a good cop gives you this type of advice? Comply or die. Obey. Never mind your rights. Never mind the oaths they swore to protect the Constitution, which translates into protecting people's rights, which translates into protecting people. Never mind all of that. When a cop tells you to do something, you obey or you deal with consequences. You comply or you die. Okay? You do what you're told or fear. Do what is being demanded of you, commanded of you, or else. Okay? What kind of a good cop gives you that advice? To just throw away your rights, even if you disagree, as he so eloquently put it. Even if you disagree, never mind all that shit. You just do what you're told, be the sheeple of the planet, and bend over and take it up the ass. Okay? There's a process that you go through in order to file complaints and blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, he says, in that moment, the cop has the ultimate say-so, the final say. All right? Keep all this stuff that I'm talking about in mind. Watch the featured video, and then go into my description. Watch What It Means to Back the Blue. Keep everything that I'm saying, keep that in mind as you're watching that video, but focus on those key bullet points that I just mentioned. All right? And as always, stay frosty.
For over 39 years, I was a police officer in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. For 15 of those years, I was the sheriff of Milwaukee County. I've done everything you can do as a cop, from walking the beat to investigating murder to running the agency. I've met a lot of cops of every race, ethnicity, and background. Here's what I can tell you. Cops are not perfect. That's not a news flash, but this might be. They don't have to be perfect. They have to be excellent. And most officers reach excellence every single day, and often under very difficult circumstances. Circumstances you can't imagine and wouldn't want to if you could. Perfection is an unattainable goal. Cops are ordinary human beings, like everyone else. Lawyers, surgeons, and baseball players, they make mistakes. But no profession works harder to correct its mistakes. You can mark social progress by the improvements made by police departments over the last 50 years. Today, police are more professional, better educated, and better trained than at any time in their history. You wouldn't know it, though, if you listened to self-serving, self-righteous politicians and activists. In their version of history, the police are the villains of the story, not its heroes. Like everything else this crowd does, they've got it all backwards. The police aren't the problem. The politicians and activists are. The police didn't create the failed urban policies that have locked people into generational poverty. The police aren't responsible for fatherless homes, failing schools, and bad lifestyle choices. And they sure as hell aren't responsible for the lack of respect shown to police officers. It is this lack of respect for authority, fostered over decades by the progressive left and its fear the police narrative, that has led to the needless deaths of so many young black men. When Officer Darren Wilson told Michael Brown to get out of the middle of the street in Ferguson, Missouri, did Brown comply? No. When officers in Baltimore told Freddie Gray to stop resisting arrest, did he comply? No. When officers in New York City told Eric Garner to stop resisting arrest, did he comply? No. Here's a useful tip. If you want to avoid a bad outcome with a police officer, follow this simple rule. When a cop gives you a lawful command, obey it, even if you disagree. Whatever problem you are experiencing is not going to be settled on the street. People with complaints need to use the process established for that purpose. Though cops don't have the final say, they do in that moment. How you react can be a matter of life or death. But the idea that a law-abiding citizen has to fear the police is a terrible and destructive lie. Let's get some perspective. In 2014, 990 people were killed in police use of force incidents. Does that sound like a lot? Did you know that according to a Johns Hopkins study, that same year medical errors killed 250,000 people, yet activists aren't marching in the streets demanding that the medical profession be reformed? Why not? Why is it that the people who protect you from the bad guys, and I've seen these bad guys close up, are the subject of distrust and anger? Why is it that groups like Black Lives Matter, I call them Black Lies Matter because it's based on the falsehood that police represent a danger to black people, are celebrated by the media and politicians? All this is taking its toll on cops, and even more tragically, on the law-abiding citizens in the neighborhoods that most need a strong police presence. The murder rates in these neighborhoods are going up because lawful, aggressive policing is going down. Heather McDonald of the Manhattan Institute has explained why. She calls it the Ferguson effect, and it's real. It's also common sense. Why, police officers reason, put your career at risk if 30 seconds of smartphone video taken out of context can destroy it. Here's the truth. Police aren't afraid of walking the streets or being shot by random criminals. They're afraid of being involved in an incident that would label them forever as trigger-happy racists. Are there bad cops? I know firsthand that there are. I've had to fire them. But the overwhelming majority are good, decent men and women concerned about the law-abiding citizens in the communities they serve and are willing to put their lives on the line to protect them. Those who try to convince you, either out of ignorance or out of some ideological agenda, that the police are the enemy, those are the people you should fear. Run from them, not the cops. I'm Sheriff David Clark for Prager University.